This is my 2013 Scion FRS. It just crossed 100,000 miles. It's over 10 years old. It's been to the track a few times. So I'm gonna go through it and find what needs to be done to keep this thing fresh and not breaking. Okay, so a lot of people look at 100,000 miles as a kind of threshold. So I'm gonna go through exactly what I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna go through some of the things that you should be looking at that I don't have to do, either because I did them already, or because they're totally fine, or because I just don't have the money to do everything right now. But I'm not gonna do all this work on the side of the road on Mulholland, so let's get this thing on jacks. Okay, so nothing under here is looking too bad. I think I'm gonna swap out the struts just because they are the original struts and they got 100,000 miles on them. The springs are TRD springs. They've got like 50,000 miles on them. So those should be okay. Right here though, you can see the axle's got a whole lot of gunk on it. Which probably means it's leaking somewhere. That's a hell of a lot of stuff. So we're gonna start by replacing the axles. The best thing about doing this here at work is that Banks is stuck to the wall with AMSOIL products and they're all great. So I'm gonna use some heavy duty degreaser to get some of that heavy duty degrease out of there. Next thing is gonna be to actually loosen the axle, which is held on by this indexed nut. If you're fancy, you can use a punch, and if you're not, you can use a screwdriver. Because you're punching this out, I recommend getting new axle nuts whenever you do this. I don't think you have to, but you're bending metal and then bending it back. Metal's just gonna be stronger if you bend it once. Of course, my replacement axles came with new nuts, so I guess that advice is moot. Next is gonna be disconnecting the hub here and here so we can swing this whole assembly forward and then push the axle backwards. Here's something that I just found out. Make sure you do the trailing arm first, because if you try and do the lower control arm first, that bolt is not gonna be able to get out. Okay, now in theory, I should be able to just hammer this back and pull this forward. Okay, the next step is under the vehicle here. We need to get a pry bar behind the axle to send it out this way. If you're fancy, you got like a fork, a pry fork, but I just got a pry bar. So we'll get that done right now.
Contemplating all my time. My thoughts make me.
Okay, so I got a new axle right here, nice and fresh and clean. It's technically refurbished, so it's not a new one, but it's new to me. And I'm gonna put some AMSOIL racing grease on it because this is a race car. Just kidding, no, it's not. It's a daily driver. This is gonna make it a little easier to get into the differential, and then it's just a reverse process from there. And then gotta do the other side. So, I don't know, watch this part of the video again.
The slow-mo grease bit. I'm so funny and original.
While getting the axle in, I also noticed that this tie rod is leaking pretty bad. So, you know, add that to the list. Okay, so brought the FRS back home, and also I don't work at Banks anymore, so it's going to be easier to do things here. Got some more stuff to do though. We're gonna do the struts all around. I got a set right here. Struts are really easy to get for this car because everybody pulls them off for coilovers and things like that. So these have about 30,000 miles on them. I'm not gonna use these springs. I'm gonna keep my TRD springs because A, they're lower, and B, I don't think there's any problem with them. It's just the struts. So we're gonna have to use a spring compressor, but this should all be pretty good. I also got some fresh brake pads. These are Brembo pads and I'm 90% sure they fit. There was a version of the FRS that came with Brembo calipers, the BBK. So hopefully these aren't the pads for that, but they look like the normal pads, so these should be fine. I don't take the FRS to track anymore really, so I don't really need hybrid pads on the car. I've also got some motor mounts from Cusco. Cusco is sponsoring my Yaris build, and so they sent me these motor mounts. They are admittedly stiffer than stock, but I've already got a stiffer transmission mount. We will see if this is, you know, too stiff, but the motor mounts on there right now are really shot. It kind of feels like bad clutch engagement because the motor is actually like shifting like this, and it makes it harder to feather the clutch. So if you're feeling that in your car and you think it's the clutch, might be motor mounts. So I'm gonna get the car up on jacks and get all of this started. By the way, I got one of these hats because I wear them all the time and I wanted one with my logo. I'm thinking of putting them up for sale. So if you want one, let me know. I can see about making that happen. For the rear struts, if you want to get to the top, you've got to get into the trunk here and pull back this deal, which is a bit annoying. So I'm gonna do that right now. Okay, so this is the rear out. You can see the difference between the rear springs that I had, the TRD springs, and the stock ones. First of all, TRD springs are red, which means they're cooler, but also they're progressive springs, and you can see that that's just gonna be a better ride. Not much of a difference in ride height. In fact, maybe my knee's just not flat. But under compression, they should be different because it definitely does sit lower and I don't want to go back to the stock height. So I'm going to get these springs swapped over, and that requires a spring compressor.
Since the spring is under load, you can't just remove the top hat. A spring compressor helps you take that load off the top hat, and then you can just undo it from the top of the strut. A lot of times you can get this undone with just an impact, but if the strut starts spinning, you need a hex key to be able to hold it in place.
This whole rigmarole is why springs are cheaper than coilovers, but not easier. So if you're not doing the work yourself, keep this in mind. While the rear suspension is all taken apart, I'm going to see how bad these brakes got. Okay, so like basically nothing.
The thing about brake pads is the less friction material you have, the less they can do their job. As your pads wear down, their ability to dissipate heat is reduced. And with these, it looks like it got so bad that we were actually burning the paint.
Going to the maximum, going to the maximum, bigger, bolder, faster. Going to the maximum, bigger, bolder, faster.
Okay, all done with the rear. I could put the wheels back on if I wanted to. I'm not going to. In fact, I'm gonna continue the rest of this tomorrow and get all the fronts done, and hopefully you guys get the idea by now, because filming is slowing me down and I need to be able to drive this thing on Monday. So yeah, I'm just gonna knuckle down and get to work on the rest of it tomorrow. Okay, new day, new project. I've done suspension on the Yaris before and on other cars, but I've never done motor mounts, especially on a boxer engine, and we definitely need to do the motor mounts on this guy. So I'm gonna get under the car and focus on that today.
First, we're going to disconnect a few things in the engine bay so that nothing gets snagged.
And then next we're coming under here to take off this skid plate so that we can get to the bottom of the motor. Okay, so pretty much ready to start lifting the engine. Normally you wouldn't jack up a car by the oil pan like that, but we're not jacking up the car, we're just jacking up the engine. So it'll be able to support the weight. Got a little wooden block under there. Got the nuts for the mounts removed. Got the transmission mount loosened. Hopefully that's enough. I only need to raise this engine about 2 or 3 inches in theory to sneak the motor mounts out. And if that's not enough, then we're gonna have to start disconnecting more things. Okay, got one mount out. It honestly looks okay, but let's see how bad the other one is. Okay, so I've got both the motor mounts out. They look fine. I'm not quite too sure. I've never pulled out motor mounts before, except for the ones on the Yaris, and these are definitely a different style. So I don't know. It could be that they are, you know, much stiffer mounts than the Yaris, and they might be bad internally. I don't know. They look fine. But these new ones are going to be more stiff for sure. So we're still going to install them. We just might have not solved our problem when we drive it again. So we'll see. Maybe it is in fact a clutch issue. And after 100,000 miles, maybe that clutch is, maybe like, I don't know, the flywheel bolts are backing out or something like that. Future problems. For now, I have a car with no motor mounts, so I've got to put some motor mounts in. Well, that is the motor mounts all done. I still have some other things to button up. I still haven't done the front suspension yet, but I want to get this down on the ground and give it a drive to see if the motor mounts solve the problem. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, first drive. She definitely sounds a little different. There's a little more noise coming through the engine bay. You can feel that. So it means that that motor mount is on tight. Got to pump the brakes because I just redid brakes and there was no pedal. Okay, hey, now we can do this. No, that feels better. That feels way better. Oh my gosh. This is so this is kind of like what it felt like when I went from a stock clutch to a stage 2 clutch from ACT. Oh my God. Oh my God. Hey, this car's alive again. I didn't realize how much motor mounts would make such a difference. The NVH, yes, is higher with these Cusco mounts for sure. But it does definitely feel more comfortable to drive. At stop signs, it does sound less appealing, you know, but the actual clutch engagement is there. It doesn't feel like it's poor clutch. There we go. my phone mount can't handle the vibrations. It's slowly falling over. The motor mounts itself feel great. The rear suspension feels great. And yeah, really happy that this is all done. This car has been with me for a very long time. I've had this since 2017. I bought it at like 30,000 miles. I kind of don't know what this car is going to become. I love it as a canyon carver, but I don't go to canyons that often. I should have a rear-wheel drive car for track, but 100,000 miles on this very expensive engine for what it is, I don't really want to track it all that much. So let me know in the comments what you think I should be doing with this, whether I should just be kind of like keeping it going because manual rear-wheel drive coupes are getting rarer and rarer, even though this is not like the holy grail 90s era manual rear-wheel drive coupe. I definitely don't feel like I should get rid of it, but I kind of don't know what I want to do with it. So let me know in the comments if you've got an idea. All I can say is this was getting to be a little bit of a pain to drive, and with just motor mounts, I have remembered why I love this car. And the next one, I promise the next one will be a Yaris video. I know it's been a long time since we've had Yaris content. The Yaris is undergoing literally the biggest project I've ever done with it. I'm taking my time and making sure I'm doing it right. I've got people who are willing to help me out, and you know, just making sure that it happens. So it's gonna take a while, and I'm gonna talk to you about why I'm not really rushing the process, and that's all gonna be next video. So catch you next time.